And welcome to Absolutely Not. Thank y'all so much for being here today. My name is Kay Mautau Thomas Stroll. My pronouns are they, them, and you can learn more about me at my website, www.kstroll.com. Real quick, I need money. And I need money to continue to do the work that I do. And you can help with that by visiting my Ko-Fi page, Coffee page, where you can join the community or leave a tip or buy one of my workbooks on boundaries and psychological safety. Please support my work so I can continue to do this work. The keywords for this episode are grace, patience, and conservation. I encourage y'all to look up the definitions of these words and compare them to the definitions you carry with you on a daily basis. If you need help comparing, please let me know. Today's episode is titled, I Am My Biggest Supporter. I'm taking a deep breath right now because I am truly honored to have this special guest here with us. And I'm gonna tremble through this as much as I can. But our special guest today is Avi Roque, they, them. Avi is an actor and voiced artist. They come from a theater background, having performed in a number of stage productions, is also the narrator of several audiobooks, including the New York Times bestseller Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. Lastly, you can hear them as the voice behind Raine Whispers on Disney Channel's animated series, The Owl House. They are transgender, transmasculine, non-binary, queer, and Latin. Avi, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, you're welcome, Kay. Thank you for that gorgeous introduction. I am so happy to be here, and thank you for doing this work and for hosting this podcast and having these conversations because it's really important. So thank you.
And to everybody listening to that, I told you I was going to sit in these emotions and not brush off compliments. So thank you so much for thanking me for my work. I want to talk about your work. The reason I'm trembling right now is because your latest, or excuse me, I'm so sorry. Raine Whispers, that character changed my life. And so in that, you have changed my life. Is this something that you hear often, that character changing people's lives?
Yes, definitely. And it's still something I'm getting used to in terms of the positive reception that I've gotten from being who I am and lending my voice to this character that is the type of character that is often underrepresented. And it means so much to me when I get to hear the ways that Raine Whispers has helped people navigate their own journeys of gender identity, or just that feeling, or rather, seeing Raine Whispers and feeling not alone, and feeling like they can see themselves reflected back to them. It's just a beautiful thing, and I am so honored that I was chosen to get to be a part of that animated series and again be the actor that gets to tell Raine's story. So yeah, I love it.
I'm so glad that you're receiving like an abundance of positive affirmations for the role that you played. One thing that really changed my life, I know the character and like everything they went through, like that meant a lot to me. But then looking, like I am being it like immediately, and it being like being a real trans masculine, like and they could have definitely not did that. And so that means a lot to me that it was a actual representation. Was there ever a thought in your mind during that process, I guess, where you wanted to make sure that this was actual representation and not some weird, I don't know, thing?
Definitely. I think I was given a real privilege and opportunity because I always share this story that when I first got the audition notice for Raine Whispers, they sent me the original character concept and rendering of what they would look like. And they were very fair skinned. And I would say, to me, I perceived them to be a white, character. And I wrote myself off being like, well, I'll audition, but I probably won't get cast because I'm not white, I'm brown. Anyways, don't ever do that. That's my advice, because you just never know. Because if the casting feels like you are the right person for the job, they will work with that. And I think that's what they did with me. Was they chose me. They knew who I was, the color of my skin, and then they shaded and matched skin tone of Raine to mine. And then I think Raine, as I started to go into those voiceover sessions and record lines, I was shaping the character because of who I was and what I was bringing to the role. So I always think that's just really fascinating. And wait a second, what was the original question?
You're okay, you're fine. No, that leads into like the expectations we have when even going into a job or anything that we're doing, and not really thinking that we're able to make changes while in the process, or to even advocate for ourselves within the process. The title of this episode is I Am My Biggest Supporter. How did you advocate for yourself while you were doing the voice roles, or for any roles that you've like come in similar contact, I guess?
Definitely. I will say, being in the arts and a performing artist, whether that's on stage or on TV, oftentimes I am the only one. And when I say that, I mean the only trans, non binary person or representation in the room or in the project. So over time, I have learned what my needs are in these spaces. And I have learned those boundaries around asking and advocating for what I need. And that's just been through trial and error of doing these things and knowing that before I enter a space, I want to make sure people know my pronouns. And I also go into these spaces knowing everyone has a different learning curve. So I don't know. I'm trying to meet people where they're at and have that grace and that patience in the process. Uh, but that's always number one for me, is that before I go into a project or a room, people know my pronouns. And then when we are in the space in the room, I can have an opportunity to say my pronouns. But sometimes I don't always get that opportunity, especially when it comes to the voiceover stuff or film or sets. You kind of show up sometimes and just kind of get thrown into it, and you're just expected to do the work. And oftentimes you're working with different people, not always the same people. But what I learned, or what I observed, was that in recording The Owl House, the voice director, Eden Rigel, fantastic human being, was the one I was always working with in the studio and recording my Raine Whispers lines. And one time the engineer misgendered me and said, "Oh, he said this or that." And Eden intervened and stepped in and said, "Oh, Avi uses they, them pronouns." So I think it's when I know the community or the people I'm with can also help me advocate for myself, because we know that work is exhausting, to have to always be the one to correct, to educate. So those are boundaries I've learned as well, of when am I going to speak up? When am I going to let something roll off and not make a big deal about it? But that has come with the confidence I have in myself and knowing who I am and having a firm understanding of myself helps me to navigate the world, because I can't control other people.
I love that so much, because even in that, you're establishing what relationships you're in, like as part of this job. Like, I get it, there's a film crew, I get it, there's like people on set, but none of those people are like particularly in a strong relationship or connection with me. So I need to establish now this voiceover director or this director right here is my like strong line of communication. And if it's not strong, then we need to figure out how to make that stronger, because I'm not about to tire myself on top of actually doing my job. So let's have a strong connection there so that all the like not so strong connections can be like off of that. Also, I know the word is allyship, but shout out that director. Like that's a good example of how you can advocate for other people. That's amazing. Were there any other people who were awesome in like strong connection advocacy like that?
Um, you know what? I would probably say my talent agents, I have a strong connection to them and a loyalty just because they stuck with me through my transition. I had signed with them as an actor pre-transition and then began socially and medically transitioning, and they stuck by my side and have been supportive. And I know they're also people I can rely on and turn to if I'm having any issues or concerns around that, uh, around not being affirmed or you know anything that's I haven't had those experiences. I'll be honest though, like I feel very lucky and fortunate that experienced I've experienced microaggressions, but nothing huge that's been like very unsafe situations um, of transphobia or homophobia or anything like that. So yes,
I'm
grateful for that.
I'm so glad that you haven't had any experiences like that. Like I'm really happy, and we talk about that a lot in this space. So like trans joy does exist. I don't like that like the whole narrative is like trans people are always in pain and always no, sometimes we're good. Like sometimes we are literally thriving and doing great things for other trans people. And I love that so much of you, well, social media, but like is like just doing all of what you want to do and making other trans people feel safe. So that makes me so happy. I love that you also just broke down transitioning as socially and medically, because you mentioned your basic needs before going into any project that you're working on. And even in transitioning, like that's a big thing to say out loud. Like, I want to start transitioning socially. I want to start transitioning medically. But one of those first steps is just kind of sitting with yourself and saying, like, what do I need as a human? Like, why do I want to do this? How is this going to affect? What are some questions, I guess, that people can sit with themselves before taking maybe socially first, like transitioning socially?
Hmm. Yeah, I'm a huge advocate of taking my time um, and not rushing into something, but taking time to think and sit with things and gradually moving through a process of change. And for me, yes, it started with socially transitioning, but that was because I was learning about pronouns and learning about being able to change your name or choosing a name that you feel fits you. So my journey did start with that and did start with just taking the time. I feel like the pronouns thing was a given. Honestly, I feel like that thing was like, no, this makes the most sense to me. Um, and that's tied to my gender identity and how I feel spiritually and inside. And I feel neither this nor that, or I feel all of it. So they, them is are going to be my pronouns, but it was the name that I wanted to be more mindful and more intentional with. And so I did my research and I knew I wanted my name to start with the letter A because my birth name started with the letter A. And I wanted it to be gender neutral. Uh, and it's so funny, I connected less to the meaning of the name, but I found a description one time that was just like a person named Avi is this, and that one little paragraph, I was like, that's me. And that's when I began to say, okay, this is my name, these are my pronouns, and started using that in my circles and then sharing that in my professional community. And so it began to just grow and settle. And then a few years after that, like 2 years, was when I saw I wasn't feeling good about myself. And I knew I had to love the parts that I had and love who I was before making physical body changes. But it became a necessity, and it became a medical necessity where I needed to know what that process was. And so I went to an appointment and a consultation. Like, let's say this was like in March of 2018. And then decided to not take testosterone or have any surgeries until later that year in like the end of December. So, talk about me taking time to really know the information, know what my options are, and really sit with it and then make the decision. Um, so, that kind of again just leads to the patience of my journey. And even when I started testosterone, I started at a very small dose and then gradually over time began to increase it. So, yeah, and maybe that's just how I am as a person. I like to kind of change is a hard thing for me sometimes. But I have to remember I've made such huge changes in my life and that I can apply that to other areas of my life. Um, yeah.
No, that's so much permission in that. I think even the idea that like medically transitioning to become trans is a belief like um is like such a huge thing for people, but every single human being is going to go through changes, like any change, whatever you do. I've been on this planet for 31 years. I've been through every fucking change on the planet, and it just you're going to have to go through these steps, even if it has nothing to do with gender, even if it has nothing to do with sexual orientation. Like, this is something that we're not taught enough about, and I think that's why it's so scary to people. Like, that's transphobes live off of fear. They just like, but if this information was accessible, if it was talked about, like transitioning from the military, which I did, it's still a huge transition that has to be done. And sorry, I'm connecting dots, but like these transitions and seasons come and go, and knowing that they're going to come and go, and knowing that we have the opportunity and ability to take just tiny steps is what helps me a lot. And knowing that there are people just like me, oh, I just said that, making tiny steps, and who have made tiny steps and have been able to gradually get to where they wanted to go, makes me so happy. And I hope it helps other people as well. One of the things I talk about a lot in my work is how non-binary people are often separated from transness. Like, they're not given, yeah, they're just not like, okay, there's trans people and then there's non-binary people. Do you have any, I guess, feelings around that, how that happens so often?
Yeah. And one thought too I wanted to say was a reminder, a gentle reminder around medically transition doesn't make one trans, right? Like, you don't have to be on hormones, you don't have to have surgeries to be transgender. You don't. And as we know, it's not just the binary. And I always say the definition of transgender is identifying with the or not identifying with what you were assigned with at birth. So to me, that's an umbrella term, a transgender. So I feel like with the non-binary, I've heard that before, that some non-binary people feel like that's not a word they can claim or a word they can use. But in retrospect, they can. And I'm not sure where that maybe that discomfort lies for those that feel like I'm not transgender. I don't belong in that community. Um, but I don't know. I'd like to alleviate that and say that no, you can, and it's there's so many ways to be non-binary. There's so many ways to be trans. Um, so I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts on that. That I think everyone should feel that they can claim that word or use that word. And again, it's a word, it's a label. But yeah, so I don't know, those are my thoughts.
I love that. I love that you I, I'm very visual, so there's pictures going on while people are talking. But you turn that bucket into an umbrella, and so instead of us just having two buckets, babes, there's an umbrella under there, and you can stand under it, and we're standing under it as well, and we're still gradually trying to figure it out. I think so many
Exactly.
people are so afraid of the word trans, like they're just so very afraid of it. Because if I choose to stand under the umbrella, there are people under there that I then have to support, I then have to acknowledge, and I then have to
Mm-hmm.
learn about. And I think they're just so afraid of that. But as we've kept talking about in this is you're allowed to learn new things. You're allowed to yeah, like Google search it, babe. And I'll be honest with you, if you're Googling searching it, you're probably under the umbrella already, baby. I'm sorry. I'm super like if like they are, and we're here for you, but we're standing right there with you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. But
Yes, I
um
love that.
I
Oh,
love that you're also like even in the gradual baby steps, that's conservation. Like maybe you're going through hell and back right now and you really can't deal with like what's going on under the umbrella. Have you ever had to do that? I guess like, okay, I really can't focus on being trans right now. I have some other shit to do, but I will come back and like figure it out.
that's such a great question. I will say in the early stages of my own personal transition, I was in Chicago at the time and very involved in the theater community. And this was also when conversations around diversity and inclusion were happening and, changing the way we're doing theater and casting and telling different stories that are not just about white cis people. So I got very burnt out during that time because I was often at the helm of those conversations and often again in the room being an educator while trying to do my work and not being compensated properly to be doing that kind of labor in addition to what I'm really there for, which is to act. So, anyways, that is just to say I have found it challenging and I have stepped back and pulled back. You mentioned something about joy, and at that time, that was my activism. But now my activism is living my life and being visible and sharing my joy and sharing my bits of my life, which, Instagram is a highlight reel. So yeah, I'm sharing the highs, okay? But that's not to say I don't have the lows. It's just I care about showing joy because to me, I want to offer people hope and I want others to feel joy too and possibility that they too can have a life of joy because that's what they deserve. It's our birthright to be happy. And yeah, so okay, wait, did I lose track? I ramble too and go on like
that that's great. I love that even in that process you learn like this is enough. Like I am giving a whole lot at this job. I'm giving a whole lot even in social media world, which is like it's a weird sphere of real life and not real life. So please y'all be careful with that. But at some point you're going to have to sit down with yourself and be what am I doing right now? Is it enough? Am I being paid enough? Because capitalism, baby, rent is due on the 1st. Some of us is the 15th, but you have to pay it. So am I being paid enough? Is the work that I'm doing actually doing what I wanted it to do? And am I still gonna be here after that work is complete? Because if I burn myself the fuck out, then I'm not gonna be here at the end of it. I won't even be able to reap the joy that I'm like causing for other people. And I love that so much because so many of us don't learn that. We just like, okay, activism, let's get it for our community. But if we're standing under so many umbrellas, like the trans umbrella, Latina umbrella, the Black umbrella, like that's too many rainbows, babe. And I don't know if y'all heard, but like for a lot of those communities, it's fucking raining, like a lot. And we're just standing under those umbrellas, hoping we don't get pissed on. So please, everybody, stand under those umbrellas. We're standing with you, but take some time to sit down. Be like, I'm going inside real quick. I can't stand under the umbrella today.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you so much, Avi, for bringing all these examples here, and also just reaffirming for a lot of us that we're allowed to rest. We're allowed to not be a 24/7 active advocate for our communities, but we are supposed to be a 24/7 advocate for ourselves. Ooh, write it. Oh, let me write that down. Oh, what was the thing? Oh, okay. Sorry, y'all. I wanted to talk about the thing that you said at the beginning of this episode. I am a psychological safety consultant, and I talk about safety a lot. And when I brought up a safe space, you described a different type of space. Could you describe it?
Absolutely. In addition to safe space, that you are holding a brave space for us as well. And that bravery of having the courage to speak our truth, to share our feelings. I think that's also something that I thought a safe space and a brave space.
And for a lot of people, that may not be like, okay, bitch, that's the same thing. It's not. Like for me, that was really eye-opening for me, because you can do all the safe space, whatever you want to. Like I can put pillows on the ground or whatever, but if I'm not allowing people the chance to say, oh, I actually don't want to sit on the ground, my back hurts, I would like to sit in a chair, then what's the point? Yeah, what's the point of all the pillows if you're not giving people options or the ability to speak their truth? So thank you so much for bringing that in this space, because I think I will start using that description a lot more. To the people who are listening to this and want to start going into spaces and start assessing whether those spaces are safe spaces, brave spaces, if they're going to be allowed to be their own supporter in those spaces, my Lord. What would be the top 3 tips you would share with them about going into those spaces?
Ooh. It's something I still am practicing, but breathing. Really taking a private moment for yourself before you go into these spaces. A friend of mine just taught me this breathing exercise of inhaling, saying like to yourself while you're inhaling, inhale, and then exhale, and then say 1. And you're going to do that 5 times, repeating that. Inhale, exhale, or exhale, 2, 3. And you're going to do that 2 times. And that has helped me a little bit, just kind of ground myself. So anything with deep breath, just to make connection to your body and your environment is really helpful, I think, before you enter any kind of space. Giving yourself that time to check in. And then entering the space, which is scary, but very open. Like, I don't know if this is relevant, but I had an acting professor one time tell me about auditions. So as an actor, I have to audition sometimes, right? And before pandemic times, you were going into the casting offices and you're just one person with several people sitting behind a table all watching you. And what I remember that this one director said was go into the room to see, not to be like looked at or seen, but like go in to take everything in, take everyone in, and have that openness. And then kind of navigate from there and respond there and being present. Again, something I'm still working on, but being present in the moment uh, and doing your best. Something I'm working on personally is parts work, which is part of IFS, which is internal family systems. So talking to my parts sometimes, I have a very anxious part. And sometimes I got to talk to that part to be like, hey, anxious part, thanks for being here. Listen, I got this. And kind of just quieting them down respectfully and kindly and being like, you go play over there. I got this. Anyways, that's still something I'm working on. It's not anything I'm truly skilled at. I struggle still because, yeah, I'm a human being and I'm still working on personal growth. But that is something that I would suggest if that's, something anyone wants to be like, what are all these parts that make up me? And how do I get all these parts to have a conversation with each other and me have a conversation with them? Anyways, I digress. But that's two. And three, yeah, with that, I guess it would be like going in with, oh gosh, as much confidence as you can. I know easier said than done, but just belief in yourself that you matter or knowing your value and your worth, you know, in these spaces.
I love all these tips a lot, but that I think it was the middle one. Going into new spaces to see and not to be seen. Oh my little social anxiety heart just burst. Like I'm constantly planning like 17 steps ahead. I one time had a conversation about a social event I was going to, and I was
Mm.
talking to them. I was like, and what if they don't like me? Da, 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 da. And I remember the person being like, why are you all the way over there? Like you
Mm.
already did the whole event. So you're already talking yourself out of like not going because you are in your brain, you already did it, but you didn't do it yet. And
Mhm.
you're already writing the ending to something that's like not even done yet. So now I try to like, okay, let's just go there. Let's just go there. We have no expectations except for like respect me as a human being. But yeah, like have no expectations. We're not gonna find the love of our life there. We're not gonna make it like just have not those expect just go and experience it, and it is what it is. Because like you said in the beginning of this, there's very little that I can control, like very very little. And me trying to do that is just not conserving my energy, and I have a lot of shit to do. Like we have a lot of shit to do. We have a lot of stuff to do. Are there any last minute sprinkles that you'd like to share with the audience before we wrap up today?
Ooh, last minute sprinkles. Um, I don't know, in talking just about again the boundaries, we didn't really like get too much into that. But again, yes, we are responsible for ourselves. And again, this is something I am still learning and practicing without making it too, and I don't know if this is the right word, these are the right words, but making it too all about me, like too self centered, or to where I am not aware of other people in my vicinity, where I am not being mindful of other people. And I have hit some moments in my life, especially during my transition, where yes, I was taking care of myself and it was a matter of survival. But at the same time, I think about if I could go back, the ways that I could have realized that I wasn't the only one transitioning. Other people were transitioning with me. And that I think I was wrapped up in my own trauma, in my own stuff, that I wasn't leaving room for other people. So that is just something that I often hold and think about. And I sometimes see when I was like, I don't want to talk about my personal relationship, but I see that sometimes in the ways with my own partner that I'm not always mindful of the ways that I am affecting her. And I think that's very important to make sure we are good with ourselves, that we know ourselves, and that we know our values and our needs and figure that out. And if you're in a partnership, then we're going to bring all our stuff together and we're going to figure out a way to coexist and where everyone feels heard, listened, seen, loved, respected. So that is work, though, let me tell you, as I'm sure you know. But that takes a lot of work and patience and perseverance to really want to work through those things together. And I'm grateful that I have a partner that shares that belief, but sometimes it's very hard. It's very hard.
And I appreciate you bringing that up because kind of full circle, just like we were talking about the strong connections, like identifying who are the strongest connections in your entire life, not even at your job, at any parts of your life, but your entire life, and making sure those strong connections are still together. Do they need mending? Do they need more respect? Do they need more nourishing? Because those strong connections are going to help you through any transition you're a part of, whether it be with gender, sexual, any transition.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for bringing that up.
you're welcome.
And
Yeah.
I just want to say again, thank you so much for everything that you're doing and just being alive and being yourself. Okay, no, I'm gonna go on a whole rant, but like, thank you so much for everything you have done. Ooh, nope, not doing it. To anybody who's listening to this, keep saying absolutely not to anything unaligned, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Sounds good. Bye.